Good morning. Hello, and welcome to podcast number 10. Today we are joined by Marcus Dempsey from Tekkers IT. Thank you for joining us, Marcus.
Thank you.
Marcus, I don't know if you want to just give a bit of an intro about who you are, where you're from, just to explain to the many listeners that are probably not watching yet, a bit about yourself, really, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Marcus Dempsey from Tekkers IT. I'm provisionally a cyber essentials and penetration tester. We go around and help companies protect their assets and their services through cybersecurity services.
And so lots of that, that's kind of why we're here today, is to talk about the cyber essentials. So is it right, you're an assessor for the cyber essentials?
That's
and
correct,
Cyber Essentials Plus?
Yep, cyber essentials and cyber essentials plus.
And that's through is it ISME?
Yeah, ISME, yeah.
ISME, is it?
Yeah.
I always get that wrong. Because there's, my understanding there is, you were saying there's about 4 or 5 bodies, isn't there, in the UK, I think?
Yeah, there's 5 accreditation bodies at the moment, and under the accreditation bodies, there's hundreds of certification bodies around the country, which you would go to be certified for cyber essentials.
So what do you need to do to become an assessor? I'm assuming there's quite a few exams you need to pass.
You pretty much go to an accreditation body of your choosing, and then you get trained up. It's normally a couple of days worth of training, answer a lot of questions, go through the scope of Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, and then, once you've completed it all and you've passed everything, you're certified.
And obviously Cyber Essentials is quite a big thing, and very much so if you base the business around it as well nowadays, or not necessarily around that, but cybersecurity in general. Yeah. But Cyber Essentials is something we recommend to all of our customers, and it's just a good basic level for everybody to have, which is the Cyber Essentials Basic, just a very entry level, which I think is like £300.
It's normally £300 plus VAT. Yeah,
and that gives you that essentially is a self-assessment questionnaire. There are companies, and you can go above and beyond that. I guess you do some consultancy around that as well in terms of helping people answer the questionnaire and get to that certain level that they need to get to.
That's
or
right.
Probably the basic, but more so for the what's the extra level? The Pro? Forgotten the name of it now.
There's Cyber Essentials or
Plus.
The Cyber Essentials Plus, which is the on-site assessment.
So what's the difference between? So you've got the on-site bit. What's the differences between the basic and the Plus version?
The basic, as you mentioned, was self-assessment. You go in, you answer 60-odd questions, and you pretty much take it on trust as what you've written is true. The Plus will come in, we do an audit and verify what you've said in the self-assessment is actually true. We'll also do a vulnerability assessment across your whole network, so that's just looking to make sure that you're updating your computers, there's no serious vulnerabilities, you've changed default passwords on your devices, your firewalls, your printers, things like that, and just pretty much saying what you've said in the self-assessment is right.
We've noticed lots in the, more for our legal customers, that obviously they go through loads of stringent requirements, and particularly when working with banks.
Yeah.
So banks will have their own IT security assessments, but lots of them nowadays are kind of just shortening that, because they can say, well, have you just got Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus they're mainly aiming for, which it basically means they can skip out a whole load of questions and just go, well, if you're certified to this level, then here's a few extra questions, which really does help out.
Certainly does. So
today we're looking to go through, which I hope will be of interest and value to lots of people listening or watching or whatever you're consuming this. We're going to run through the Cyber Essentials Basic questionnaire. Between the Basic and the Plus, is there a difference in terms of the questionnaire at all? It's just the same questionnaire, but there's some extra checks and things that are done.
Yeah, for the Cyber Essentials Plus, there isn't actually a questionnaire. It's just a physical audit of everything you've said on the self-assessment.
Right,
so
okay.
Just question-based for the self-assessment.
And do you have to do the Basic first and then go to the Plus after?
Yeah, you got.
So you kind of fill out the questionnaire and then.
Yeah, you fill out the questionnaire, then you got up to 3 months to get the Plus. So if you're thinking you might be going for the Plus as you're doing the self-assessment, make sure you do it, and then as soon as you've certified, you've got that 3 month window to actually get the Plus. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. So we're going to go through the questionnaires, basically, the 40, 50, 60 odd questions that we've got here. For those listening, if you happen to be trying to certify for the Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, this will be hopefully very, very good for you just to listen through. If you're struggling with any of the answers, then listen in. So we'll start off. I'm just scanning through the questions at the moment, because the first lot of questions are what's your name, where do you come from, what your business does, which we don't need to answer for you. Question A 2.1, if we're going to follow this to the letter here. So does the scope of this assessment cover your whole organisation? This is First of all, it talks about the cyber insurance. So as part of the Cyber Essentials Basic, you get free cyber insurance if you meet certain requirements. I don't know if you're aware of what the requirements are to get that.
Yeah, this is part of the ISME part of it. So if you're a UK domiciled business and turnover less than £20 million, you can actually get up to £25,000 with cyber liability insurance.
And is it the kind of thing that it's a freebie, you're probably still better off going to get your own insurance policy?
I guess it depends on the size of the company. It is a freebie. It's there. You know, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to take it.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're a bigger company,
really
that's
concerned.
Yeah. If you're a big
making sure
company,
you get the right coverage, because then
Yeah.
I guess the coverage you get is the coverage you get. You don't
Exactly.
really get to pick or choose or anything. So in terms of that first question, it's just saying, does the scope of this assessment cover your whole organisation?
Yep. So this 99.9% of the time, it'd always be a yes. But if you're a larger company that maybe you've got multiple companies or divisions within the business, you might only just want to certify one part of the business. You could just say maybe only the engineering department of Acme Limited is going to be certified for Cyber Essentials, and then you would just put that in, and then there's just the scope based around that.
Gotcha.
But you'd have to make sure that you have got actual physical firewalls in place to separate off the various divisions within the business.
Right, okay, because that division as an entity has to be protected, basically.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, cool. If this is not a whole organisation, then what scope description would you like to appear on your certificate website? I guess that's just saying you want to call it the network you want, or the department, or whatever you want it to be.
That's just going to be whatever's printed on your I was going to say the CV. Anything on the certificate.
Geographical locations of the business. I'm sure everyone can fill that out on the questionnaires already. Please list the quantities of laptops, computers and servers within scope of this assessment. You must include the model and operating system versions for all devices. Is that a recent addition with the model and operating systems?
It is a recent addition, mainly because Windows 10's now out, and Microsoft's no longer supporting the older or original versions of Windows 10.
Yeah.
So this is the one that normally catches a lot of people out. So as it says, list all the devices that you've got. So it could be, we have 20 Windows 10 Pro machines, and then put the version on, so 1809 or 1903, things like that. If you don't actually put the version number in, it'll get rejected and sent back for you to put back in.
And that's another good point, actually, because I know previously when Cyber Essentials first came out, you can kind of just go through and go, yes, no, yes, 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 and then submit, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
In terms of leaving, because there are notes under every single question now, and I get asked the question from time to time, how long, how short do you need to leave notes? Does it matter on the question, or do you always have to leave notes in as much detail as possible? Most
of the questions is just a simple yes, where if it doesn't say describe next to the question, you normally just say a yes or a no.
Okay.
Personally, I prefer everyone to stick at least a sentence, maybe two down on it. It just helps the assessor actually grade you and understand your business and how it goes.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's very useful.
More information, the better.
Yeah, indeed. So make sure you've identified all the machines you've got, the versions that you're running. I guess you don't really have to go down to versions of like service pack levels for
no, it's just the main version number of the operating system.
So for Mac, for example, is just Mac Mojave. You don't have to do Mojave 10, 11 point whatever we're on nowadays. Yeah. Just literally the operating system. Cool. Question A 2.7 is, please list the quantities of tablets and mobile devices within the scope. You must include model and operating system versions for all devices.
Yeah, again, this is a similar sort of thing to the last question. If you use any mobile devices or tablets or anything for business use or has any type of business information on it, list the devices down. So if you've got, Android or Chromebooks sort of thing, put down the quantity of the device and, again, the operating system.
Cool. But again, you don't have to go into specifics of iOS 12 point something, just Apple iPhone, iOS, and then that's it.
That's right, yeah.
Cool. A 2.8 is please provide a list of networks that will be in scope for the assessment.
Yeah, again, you don't have to be too detailed on this. It could be main head office network and wireless network if they've got two networks split up. Right. Or maybe for bigger companies, you might have engineering, operating services, something like that. Just describe what networks you've got in the business. So
if you're a single office but have, I don't know, for example, us here, that's a good enough example, a production network, which is a wired network, a wireless production network, an engineering network, a guest network, you'd have to declare those all as separate networks within there?
Yes, if you want them in the scope of Cyber Essentials, yeah. Cool. And if you'd said previously that your whole company's in scope, then yeah, it's all those networks.
Brilliant, thank you.
You don't have to list any IP addresses or anything like that, though.
Oh, okay, just the names, just
the names, yeah.
Overall summary of what they are. Please provide a list of network equipment that will be used in scope for the assessment, including firewalls and routers. And it does say specifically you do not need to include switches or wireless access points.
Yeah, again, so that's primarily any routers, switches, even though it says no switches, pretty much firewalls, anything that communicates traffic around your network and the border endpoints.
Anything that can basically be impacted for security, I guess.
Exactly,
really. Yeah. But not wireless access points from the looks of things there. Please provide, so this is A2.10, please provide the name and role of the person who's responsible for managing the information. Assume that's generally probably whoever's filling out the questionnaire, or the business owner for smaller businesses, or if you've got a specific IT director or something on those lines.
Yeah, it's pretty much as you said. It's 9 times out of 10, it's whoever's filling the self-assessment in. Someone who looks after the IT.
Yeah. The next section is that's insurance questions, which I guess we don't really need to go through. Are you based in the UK and is it less than 20 million? If you've answered yes, this, what's your gross turnover? Blah. Does the company have any operations in the US? No, let's skip those ones. Office firewalls and internet gateways. So we're now on 4.1, and this is where we start getting into the nitty gritty. It's more talking about kind of hardware and your use of it. So 4.1 is, do you have firewalls at the boundaries between your organisation's internal networks and the internet?
Yeah, as it says, it's for Cyber Essentials, it's all about security, protecting your business. So it's making sure that you actually have a physical device that is separating all your IT kit from the internet. If you're a home office, that could be a BT hub sort of thing. If it's here, it could be, I don't know, Meraki or Juniper, any type of device. So you just put down, yes, I've got X, Y, and Z.
Is it frowned on at all to use things like the BT home hubs and Virgin super hubs?
It's not frowned upon, as long as you've got something that protects your internal network from the outside. That's all we're looking for in the basic Cyber Essentials.
Cool, excellent, thank you. And so for this question, do you have to list them? Do you have firewalls? It doesn't ask you to list anything. It's just asking for a yes or no. On that.
Yeah, pretty much just stick down at yes, BT Home Hub or something like that.
Yeah,
for argument's sake.
When you first receive, so this is A4.2. When you first receive an internet router or hardware firewall device, it will have a default password on it. Has this initial password been changed on all such devices, and how do you achieve this?
Yeah, so here again, with Cyber Essentials, just making sure that you're doing security by design. So as soon as you get any new hardware, whether it's a firewall, switch, printer, or anything, ideally, just go in, change the password from whatever the default is, and put it as something nice and complicated.
Interestingly, and this looks like a recent addition. So, particularly for BT hubs and Virgin super hubs and what have you, it does say default password must be changed, including those that come with a unique password pre-configured. So that's something because I always wondered that if they had a pre-configured, because they're still unique to the devices when they get shipped out. So you do now have to change the passwords. Yeah. Well, I say now. It might have been in there for the last 3-4 years, as far as I remember. But you do have to change them on everything. Yeah. Effectively. A4.3 is the new password on all your internet routers and hardware firewall devices at least 8 characters in length and difficult to guess.
Yep, as it says, make sure the password's difficult to guess. Ideally, use a password manager and generate a nice strong password. Yeah.
And store it somewhere so you don't forget.
Exactly.
4.4, do you change the password when you believe it may have been compromised? How do you achieve this?
Yeah, again, this is just making sure that if you think you've had a compromise, whether or not, I don't know, someone's left your business and there's something dodgy's happened, or you've started getting emails coming into an account that's associated with that account, just make sure you change it and then just describe how you've actually done it. So you could say, if we have a compromise, we will log on to the device, change the password via a password manager and store it.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you. 4.5 is, do you have any services enabled that are accessible externally from your internet's routers or hardware firewall devices for which you do not have a documented business case?
Yeah, so this is making sure that you're not actually serving, I guess, business critical information from your office and just giving out personal information or potentially confidential information to the internet willy-nilly sort of thing.
So what are the most common things that do get access externally? I guess like email servers for one.
It could be, I don't know, HR information, payroll information that They might have temporarily hosted internally for testing purposes, so they've opened up some ports on the firewall so people can get in and browse it, and then forgotten to lock it up once they've done the testing, something like that. Or, some developer might have done some testing and gone from there. But
and again, in terms of the notes on this one, how much information is required? It's just saying kind of the business case should be documented and recorded. Is that kind of, again, I guess with all of these, as much information as possible, really?
Yeah, you don't have to give War and Peace, a sentence or two would be good. You're just saying, yes, there's a business case for this, X, Y, and Z will be done.
Cool. 4.6, if you do have services enabled on their firewall, do you have a process to ensure they're disabled in a timely manner when they're no longer required? Describe that process.
Yeah, so that's just making sure that once the service is no longer required, you just make sure that you close the holes in it.
And in the just the little notes here, it's saying that you should have a process that you follow to do this, i.e. when are the services reviewed, who decides to remove the services, who checks that it has been done. Is that normally, I guess that forms part of an IT policy, those steps? Yeah,
it'd be an IT policy or change control within that policy sort of thing. So you're just making sure that, you're making sure everything's safe and secure. And if anything,
so if you're answering the questions and you don't have one of those policies, I guess you should write a quick policy to say that, and then you can answer yes to the question.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we did this with a few of our customers the first time around, because obviously this has been around for a few years. That because it's an online questionnaire you're filling out. I don't know if it's different with other certification bodies, but it's an online questionnaire.
It is, yeah.
And it gives you the chance to go through and answer yes to what you can. Either answer no or don't complete the ones you can't do.
Yeah.
Then you can fix those problems and then answer yes and then get the certification after.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's very much not a you're not assessed and then you fail and then that's it. You can, as long as you've kind of made reasonable efforts to fix things. And that was something else. Actually, I might be jumping back and forth a bit here as well. That you don't have to, unless it's changed. You don't have to answer yes to every single question, do you, to pass?
No, there's a few questions that you have to actually say no to, which will come up. But 99% of them, they are actually yes, you have to actually answer to. But unless you've got a good explanation of why you've said no to it, then the assessor might say, fair enough, they've said no, it should be a yes, but they've got a good business case why they've said no to that reason, and it's on the assessor to say yes or no.
Right,
from that. Which is why I say give more information. More information, the better.
Definitely helps there.
Yeah.
And then on 4.7 is, have you configured your routers or hardware firewall devices so they block all services from being advertised to the internet? Most do by default, don't they?
They do, yeah. They do now.
So it's really only if you're using, only if you're using a really old one, but then if you're using a really old one, then you wouldn't be certified for Cyber Essentials because it needs to be within kind of warranty.
It needs to be supported, yeah.
So generally that is always a yes unless you have any specific cases as to why. The next one, 4.8, is, are your internet routers or hardware firewalls configured to allow access to their configuration settings over the internet?
Yeah, most people will probably say no to this one, but you have got various products like Meraki or other services that actually have their
cloud managed.
Yeah, cloud managed services. So if that's the case, you could say yes, it is. Configuration is set to the internet, but it's whitelisted, or we've got two-factor authentication in. Detail why it is managed via the cloud.
Yeah, and that leads on to 4.9 because it says, if yes, is there a documented business requirement for this access? Well, I guess that maybe doesn't link into it so much because, for example, if you use Cisco Meraki, it's not really a business requirement, it's a requirement to use the product because that's how the product works. Yeah. But like you say, if there's two-factor authentication or you've locked it down so that you can only access it from certain IP addresses, then that's the best thing to do there. Which then follows on to 4.10, which is, if yes, is the access to the settings protected by two-factor authentication or by only allowing trusted IP access to the settings? List the option which is used, which I think we've covered off already. 4.11 is, do you have software firewalls enabled on all your computers and laptops?
Yeah, this is a mandatory requirement for Cyber Essentials. So if you don't have software firewalls on your computer, you will get a fail on it. So make sure you've got, if it's Windows Defender, if it's Mac, not entirely sure what it is on the Mac, but make sure you've got firewalls on the Mac.
Is it called on a Mac? It's probably just called firewall or something, isn't it?
It is. It's not visible to the end user.
You can switch it off though, can't you? I'm sure it is like firewall.
Can,
yeah.
Firewall,
It's literally called firewall. There we go. Good on Mac.
But just make sure you've got firewall installed.
Yeah, and for bigger businesses, you can force lots of that with things like group policy.
That's
so it just forces it on for everybody. So you have to go around every single machine and check and make sure it's switched on. 4.12 is, if no, is this because software files are only commonly available? Are not commonly available for the operating system you are using? Please list the operating systems.
Yeah, so it's very rare anyone will put anything in this one, but it could be someone's running a very weird version of Linux or Unix, something like that, which doesn't actually have firewalls that are supported.
Right.
So
Okay.
if that's the case, put down the operating system and the reasons why it's there's nothing on it.
And I guess typically the answer to those should be that there is a hardware file or something sat in front of that is protecting it from those point of views. Excellent. That is section 4 done. So on to section 5, which is secure configuration. I'll read the bit at the top here because we'll go through it might as well. Computers are often not secure upon default installation. An out-of-the-box setup can often include an administrative account with a standard, publicly known default password, like admin or admin password, which many things do still come with, and one or more unnecessary user accounts enabled, sometimes with special access privileges, and pre-installed but unnecessarily applications or services. All of these present security risks. Of course they do. Question 5.1. So this applies to servers, computers, laptops, tablets, mobile phones, basically anything you're accessing, anything on. Were you able to do so? Have you removed or disabled all of the software that you do not use on your laptops, computers, servers, tablets, and mobile phones? Describe how you achieve this.
Yeah, so this one's just making sure that you only run the software that you need and is supported. So all the bloatware or all the additional applications that you get with Windows, for example, if you're a business, just uninstall all those additional games and everything that you don't use.
So you go to PC World, not that we tell anyone to go to PC World, you buy a new laptop or a new desktop, it comes with a load of junk on there effectively. It's all all the games like you say, Office 365 comes pre-installed if you're not using Office 365. Even lots of the HP system tools and things, you don't really need half of those because they're just kind of helping about systems. You just need to make sure that you take steps to remove those. Yeah. We have a process we go through for any kit that comes through our workshop that we do that. We basically wipe them, do a fresh Windows install that's clean, and then we install all the customers' apps and what have you on there. Do you have to do that too much on Mac OS? There's not too much extra comes on Mac nowadays.
I don't think there's too much on the Mac, but again, if you've had the machine for a while and you've installed stuff over the period of a couple of years, if you no longer use it, under Cyber Essentials, you should really get rid of the older stuff that you no longer use.
Very true.
Yeah.
There's some new features on Mac, isn't there, that offloads old apps that you don't use anymore? Isn't that some new Mojave feature? If you don't use an app for like a year or something, it decides that it'll uninstall it or...
Definitely does on iOS, application offloading.
Right, okay.
I haven't heard of it for macOS.
Maybe it's one of the soon-to-coming features or something. Cool, okay. 5.2 is have you ensured all your laptops, computers, servers, tablets, and mobile devices? Long phrase. Only contain necessary user accounts that are regularly used in the course of your business.
Yeah, so this one is just making sure that you only have the user accounts that you actually need. If you're in a corporate environment with Active Directory and stuff like that, you only have a low-level user account for yourself, and then a local administrator account or a global domain account for accessing all the higher edge type things. If you're a home business, again, just make sure that you've got a low-level user account and an administrator account.
Is that things like the guest accounts? Because Windows machines, definitely Macs, have the option to have a guest account where you don't need a password for, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Just make sure that's disabled and not switched on.
Exactly, yeah. Just any accounts that you've got which you no longer use, make sure they're either disabled or got rid of.
Cool. Fab. 5.3 is have you changed the default password for all user and administrator accounts on all of your laptops, computers, servers, tablets, and smartphones to a non-guessable password of 8 characters or more?
Yeah, again, this is, I think I've touched on that before, but just making sure that all your administrative accounts or any accounts that have, I guess, high-level function to devices and stuff like that, just make sure they change from the default and, make it nice and secure again.
They're normally pretty good on again, I guess, new machines. When you're doing the new setups, they force you to set secure passwords, but this is more, I guess, on older machines where you might have a administrator password account still left lingering on there somewhere.
Even stuff like printers for configuration and stuff like that, make sure they've changed.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget to do that.
Yeah, we still see that with lots of... we go onto site and find a printer and someone's having a problem, they can't print to it or it's not working properly. Well, let's just try admin. Oh, we're into it. That's a surprise.
Yeah.
Really surprised with that. And CCTV cameras.
Yeah.
We see that quite a lot, particularly with CCTV. It's quite scary because leaving those open are quite dangerous. 5.4, simple question. Do all of your users and administrators use passwords of at least 8 characters? It's just a yes.
Yes, pretty much, yeah. If you say no, yeah, it's going to be a fail.
Again, with things like Active Directory, you can set minimum characters and complexity requirements. You can force people to have more than eight letters, add in special characters, digits, those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's quite useful. 5.5. Do you run software that provides sensitive or critical information that shouldn't be made public to external users across the internet? I'll just read the description on this one just to clarify. Your business might run software that allows people outside of the company on the internet to access information within the business via an external service. This could be a VPN server, a mail server, or an internet application that could provide to your customers as a product. I think that's where you're referring to, like HR systems and that kind of thing. In all cases, these applications provide information that is confidential to your business and your customers that you would not want to be public accessible. Important to clarify, this question does not apply to cloud services such as Google Drive, Office 365, or Dropbox. And actually, I was answering this earlier thinking, do I need to? Because obviously, data stored in Office 365 or Dropbox, it is external, but we're not actually sharing that with customers. So I guess that's kind of partially why. If you use only services and do not run your own service, you should answer no. Yeah. So really, that is literally if you are using anything that's externally accessible, kind of the same as the previous answer, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
5.6. If yes, do you ensure all of these services use a password of at least 8 characters, and that your systems do not restrict the length of the password? That's interesting. Do not restrict the length of the password.
Yes, that's just making sure that if you do actually host various services that have confidential information, is it password protected? You have to actually log in and authenticate to get that information.
Completely random question. Is there what's your recommended password length? Is there a recommended password length?
Personally, for myself, minimum of 25 characters.
Blimey, okay. Is that more like phrases rather than kind of random jumbled letters? And
just use
must have
password
a very
manager.
Good memory. Yeah, of course, yeah.
I just use password manager, say minimum length 25, and generate me some garbage. And
didn't there used to be? Was it 16 characters? It used to be like the uncrackable password of 16 characters.
Yeah, used to be. I think Microsoft still recommend 16 characters for a lot of their passwords.
Right. Okay. Because it just takes too long to even sort of like brute force and things. It would just take
exactly.
years or some unfathomable amount of time.
I'm just paranoid, so I just say 25 and go from there.
We do try and for some of our more sensitive customers, we set kind of above 16 characters. I think our passwords are like 8 or 9 characters. Probably shouldn't be telling people that because they're all going to know that they're all like 8 or 9 characters. Shush, we'll cut that out. 5.7 is, if yes, do you ensure that you change the passwords if you believe they've been compromised?
Yeah, so if you've, I don't know, seen some weird things happening on your user account, maybe your mouse is flicking around or stuff's popping up on your screen, or you've subscribed to have been pawned, maybe, a good service to see whether or not you've been breached, then change your password and go from there. And
how far should you, I guess, both in the questionnaire here and in general, how far should you go? So a user's clicked on a phishing email and they've been compromised.
Yeah.
Should you then worry about the other accounts you've got in your network and your admin passwords and those kind of things?
Ideally, yes, you should. This is where it goes to making sure you've got unique passwords and credentials for every single service that you have.
Yeah.
So worst case, if you have been compromised, it's only going to affect that one service. But if you share those credentials across the numerous services, then you've got a bit of a headache.
So generally, if you're following best practice of individual passwords, then you only worry about the one password that's been compromised.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about your admin passwords or your other users' passwords. Good. Yeah. 5.8 is another follow-on. If yes, are your systems set to lock out after 10 or fewer unsuccessful login attempts, or limit the number of login attempts to no more than 10 within 5 minutes?
Yeah, so that's just making sure that it's safeguarding against brute force attempts. So if someone's trying to constantly try and break in and use your credentials, then they'll lock that account out for a period of time.
And that's I was just reading back up there. So this applies to mobile devices and tablets as well. So I don't know what it defaults to on things like iPhones, because I know if you try and type in a PIN number incorrectly, I don't know if that is enabled by default. That's something that probably is worth checking.
I know it is on an Android. I don't know about an iPhone.
I don't know if you know what it is. Well, half the thing is when you sign into a corporate email account, as you get on Android as well, it will force on the corporate policies of you need to 10 attempts or 5 attempts or whatever you set. Lots of that is defaulted, so you might find it's definitely worth going in to check into your iPhone settings. Just to make sure that you are locking people out. Completely lost my place in the questionnaire now. Where are we going? 5.9 is, if yes, do you have a password policy that guides all of your users?
Yeah, again, you should have a password policy that's applied to all users. This part of the induction, they should be reading all the policies, sign it off if they need to, and just so they're aware of what they need to do for the passwords.
And I guess that also can be, going back to like Active Directory and group policy, you can control that
Exactly.
so they can't set anything that's not secure enough.
Yeah.
In terms of your policy. And then 5.10 is auto run or autoplay disabled on all your systems. Maybe explain a bit around why, the reasoning behind that.
Yeah, it's not so much of an issue now, but on the older versions of Windows, you used to be able to plug a USB drive in or a CD-ROM.
CD-ROMs, yeah.
And back in the days, they'd just automatically run anything you wanted, so there could be some malicious software or anything that could go and infect your computer. Now, as long as you've got auto run turned off or something in place where it'll actually prompt you, so it'll come up saying, something's been plugged into your drive, do you want to run this? That protects you against from actually running malicious software straight away.
Yeah.
It gives you that chance to actually look and go, hang on, I didn't just plug something in, I didn't just try and
You
run
actually
something.
want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Had a question from the audience. Would you recommend all businesses? Sorry, completely. It's on the same topic, but not part one of the questions. Would you recommend all businesses complete the Cyber Essentials certification, even if they don't currently require it?
I would say yes. It gives you that chance of knowing where you stand, and it gives you that reputational advantage over other businesses as well. So it kind of protects you, safeguards you. Other companies know that you're doing your best to safeguard your
I think it
customer
also
data.
helps when if you're taking on and acquiring new customers, because they might then well ask for it as part of you becoming a supplier or supplying services to them.
Exactly.
So if you already hold that, it obviously doesn't hold you up from winning any new business, because you can say, yes, we've got it, rather than, yes, hang on a minute, let's just go and do that, and then come back again and have won it. So yes.
Yeah.
I would say my answer would be yes to all businesses. It just shows, not really that it... Yes, to get the badge is good, but just to make sure you've taken the basic steps, because they're particularly with smaller businesses and startups. I can probably reel off most of these questions and say most startups probably aren't doing half of these.
Yeah.
Changing default passwords, most people probably just order BT Broadband, chuck it in, and you're done, and don't bother changing passwords. So it's definitely worth going through something like this.
Same
just
with
to
the
make
user
sure.
accounts as well. You get Windows by default, that's a local administrator access. So
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
So yes is our answer. Collective answer of yes, do it. On to the next sessions. This is software patching, and this is just generally about patching your operating systems, your applications, making sure you're regularly updating everything. So question 6.1 is, are all operating systems and firmware on your devices supported by a supplier that produces regular fixes for any security problems?
Yeah, so this is just making sure you keep your systems up to date. As we said at the start, versions of Windows 10 now, all the versions are no longer supported. So you just got to keep making sure they're kept up to date and going from there. And yeah, if you've got any firmware like your laptop or various devices, just check with the manufacturer, making sure if there's any updates, get them installed as well.
That's an interesting one, actually, because most people will say, yes, we will always install, Windows updates and everything.
Yeah.
But they probably, for the smaller businesses, probably don't think about the firmware that's on their routers or their switches or anything along those lines, the networking kit.
Yeah.
I would hazard a guess and say most people that have answered yes to that question probably haven't actually doing everything on it. I've never really thought of that in detail. Thankfully, we do it here. We obviously check. But it's definitely worth considering there, that's for sure.
And that's where the Cyber Essentials Plus comes into it.
Because you'll go through and check everything, firmware versions. So you're actually logging into all of the equipment at that point, checking firmware versions?
Maybe not all of them. We'll just point and say, let's have a look at that one and just make sure it's
random,
up to date.
kind of random security check like you get at the airport.
Yeah.
6.2, are all applications on your devices supported by a supplier that produces regular fixes for any security problems?
Yeah, so this one's looking at third-party applications outside of the operating system. So if you're using, God forbid, Adobe Flash or something like that, making sure that's up to date. Adobe Reader, Office 365, anything that's outside of the operating system, just make sure it's kept up to date. If you can, set it to automatically update and prompt you.
Yeah, very much so. Lots of those can be automated nowadays.
They can, yeah.
And most programs include auto update facilities with them. So just definitely use them, basically. 6.3 is all software licensed in accordance with the publisher's recommendations. That's an interesting one that will catch out a few people that think they can buy one copy of Microsoft Office and install it on 10 computers.
Exactly. Again,
do you come across that much?
From the self-assessment point of view, no, they always say yes.
I'm sure they do.
We're not actually going and check and look at the licensing and stuff, which isn't actually part of Cyber Essentials. But
right.
sometimes when we do audits or pre-assessments and stuff like that, and actually go and talk through them, it will actually uncover a few things like that, and then they realise they've either undersubscribed or oversubscribed licenses.
We've had a few. It feels horrible though. So we'll take on like a new customer, and then make a certain. Obviously, you can't know everything when you take on a new customer.
Yeah.
And we'll make some certain assumptions, and then we'll uncover that they've been licensed. Bought one license and licensed the entire company with one product, and then have to be the one that delivers the bad news of, well, now you need to spend a few £1,000s to fix the problem that you didn't have with your previous IT company because they didn't pick it up, or they knew about it and ignored it, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the best we can do is say, well, here's the problem. This is what you need to do to fix it. It's kind of up to you whether you do or don't. But our recommendation is you need to.
Yeah.
I don't think we haven't really ever Microsoft assessments. That's the only time when it has caused issues, because I say cause issues. We always warn customers that they could be due a Microsoft assessment, because we haven't done them for a while now. Actually, I don't know if you've heard of the SAM audits.
Yeah,
Microsoft used to do a lot of them, but they've literally all that was more about along like volume licensing customers.
Yeah.
But I've not seen any come through in the last couple of years.
It seems to have died a death recently. Yeah.
Yeah, which is nice because they were useless. So they used to outsource it to. It wasn't Microsoft that actually carried out the audits. It was. I think I learned something that if an email address at Microsoft has a V in front of it, it means they're like temp staff or contracted staff.
Right.
So it's V dash like name.
Yeah.
Or name dash V or something. It means they weren't actually employed by Microsoft. And we had issues all the time where we'd start off an audit, we'd reply back and forth, and then that person would just have vanished and leave the company or whatever would happen. They'd leave no forwarding information. You could look through all of their email signatures.
Yeah.
It would have no other contact information whatsoever for them, their department, like anybody. You then phone Microsoft, who says, "I've no clue who that person is." And we ran into that quite a few times, which was frustrating. But sorry, I digress. So that was, which one was that one? That was 6.3 is all licensed in accordance. Interesting one. So 6.4, are all high risk or critical security updates for operating systems and firmware installed within 14 days of release? Describe how you achieve this.
Yeah, this one can be a tricky one, especially for the firmware side of things. But for Cyber Essentials, you only have to install the critical and security updates only within 14 days. Other updates can be applied later. Obviously, we recommend apply them as soon as possible with everything else. But this is where they're ensuring that all the applications are set to automatically update across everything, just so they install everything.
So we had to change our patching for this because we did a monthly patch window, which most customers, I guess most IT companies did for a while. Yeah. And when this changed, we then had to change to every other week. Yeah. So now every 2 weeks we patch all of our customer servers to keeps them all within Cyber Essentials. Yeah,
it can trip a lot of people up, this one. But
do you get many issues with dodgy updates, with people rushing to install the latest security, particularly with Microsoft, because they haven't been had the best reputation most recently for their updates?
Touch wood, no. But cool. Time will tell.
6.5 is, are all high risk or critical security updates for applications, including any associated files and plugins such as Adobe Flash, installed within 14 days of release? Similar as the last.
Yeah, similar thing as well. I guess one thing I try and make people aware of as well, if they run WordPress or websites, stuff like that, to make sure those plugins are up to date as well.
Yep, that's very true, actually. In terms of WordPress, where does that fall in? Because where it's asking about servers, computers, and networking, do you have to say anything about your website, where it's hosted or anything?
No, not unless you actually manage it and I guess manage the underlying operating system of the website. So if you're
having to host it in-house or
exactly,
yeah,
then that would fall in that. But if it's just from a hosting provider, then no, you don't have to worry about it.
Cool. Does that apply to the WordPress? I guess the WordPress updates. So if you're installing WordPress updates, so you're not managing the underlying like Linux or Windows system or whatever it's sat on. But if you're responsible for going, there's WordPress 5.4 or whatever, install it. That's kind of, you need to be making sure you're.
It's kind of borderline on that one, yeah.
Okay, because there's no specific questions I think that answers that or ask that question.
Normally the websites and that's out of scope, but I tend to just tell people anyway, just as being
it's
nice.
Kind of best practice.
It's exactly.
Yeah, very much.
If you're doing the business side of things, you might as well do everything else. Yeah.
6.6 is, have you removed any applications on your devices that are no longer supported and no longer receive regular fixes for security problems? Yeah,
again, this is just making sure that you keep software installed there that you use and is up to date and is supported. If you don't use it or is no longer supported, then there's a risk of compromise. So
everyone uninstalling Flash soon, because
exactly. If you've still got
Flash nowadays,
I haven't had it installed for a long time.
Yeah. And even if you want to use Flash, I think it forces you to go through like all sorts of hoops and hurdles to enable it on your browsers nowadays, because it's just massively horribly insecure and they keep releasing updates every other week.
Yeah.
That's Cyber Essentials. So the next section is on user accounts, all based on user accounts now. So I'll just read the summary. It's important to only give users access to resources, is that American? And data necessary for their roles and no more. All users need to have unique accounts and should not be carrying out day-to-day tasks such as invoicing or dealing with email whilst logged in with the user with administrative privileges. That's a big no-no. Definitely don't do that. Which allows significant changes to the way your computer systems work. And the reasoning behind that, and we don't think we've had a case of it because our customers are pretty good generally, is that you could be accessing your email with an admin level account, you open a dodgy email, and suddenly 2 seconds later your whole network's encrypted and you've lost access. That's really kind of the brunt of it. So question 7.1 to get started is, are users only provided with user accounts after a process has been followed to approve their creation? Describe the process.
Yeah, so this is just, I guess, ensuring that you've got an onboarding process or an induction phase. So you get taken on with the company. There's a process to actually give you the credentials and the right level of privilege.
So that'd be just creating their Active Directory account or email account.
Exactly, yeah. Assigning them to various groups and things like that.
Yep. 7.2, can you only access laptops, computers and servers in your organization by entering a unique username and password? Unique being the key word there, I think.
That one's just making sure that you actually have to log in to the device. So if it's on a computer, put your username and password in or PIN number, things like that. Same with the phone,
7.3, how do you ensure you have deleted or disabled any accounts for staff who are no longer with your organisation? Reverse of 7.1, isn't it? Just offboarding.
Exactly, offboarding. If someone leaves or gets fired or something like that, just make sure their accounts have been disabled, any access that they've got has been revoked.
7.4 is, do you ensure that staff only have privileges they need to do their job, and how do you do this?
Yeah, again, that's just briefly explain, how they give, what permissions they've been given, stuff like that. Just give them least privilege access. Only give them access to what they need.
So you don't have, marketing staff with full access to financial information, all those kind of things, really. Just kind of basic things, really. Is very much basic. Thus, the Cyber Essentials basic.
Exactly,
Next section, which is still 7, but this is around about administrative accounts now. So we've gone from user accounts to admin accounts. 7.5 is, do you have a formal process for giving someone access to systems at an administrator level? Describe the process.
Yeah, so this is given, defining the formal approach for giving someone an administrative level access. So again, it could be part of the onboarding process if you've been bringing on a new sysadmin, for example, or if someone's been promoted from a low-level user into an administrator. What processes do you have in place to ensure that, they, earn the respect or the right to have high-level privilege?
And it says you must have a formal written down process. So does that form... Is that part of, an IT policy, or where would that typically sit? Yeah,
that would be an IT policy. It could be part of an HR policy for, a new role or something like that. But, as long as it's written down and describes the steps.
Could that be part... So I guess that could be not an onboarding process, because that's the wrong word, but when someone's changed department, you kind of go through an onboarding for that department. So just as long as that's kind of a process in itself, that covers that one off. So 7.6 is, how do you ensure that staff only... this is interesting. How do you ensure that staff only use administrative accounts to carry out administrative activities such as installing software or making configuration changes? Basically making sure they're not accessing web browsing and emails whilst they're logged on as an admin.
This one can be quite a tricky one, but it's just making sure that everyone always uses low-level privilege access over administrative access. You only get access to administrative accounts when you actually need to do something. So
is that in terms of their admin accounts enabled when they need to use it and disabled after? Or because that's probably, whilst that would be ideal, I guess, it's probably not very realistic.
Exactly. It can depend upon the business sort of thing, depending on the size of the business, the nature of the business, everything else. But it's ensuring that 99% of the people only have low-level accounts, and there's only that small set of people who have admin accounts, and then training them, the best way of actually logging in as a low-level account and then only escalating up when they need to do something.
So an answer of, because we tell them not to, is that acceptable?
No. No, you'd have to put something down saying, we do that.
I guess that's in the policy. At least it's like a part of their job that if they were to do it, then they kind of failed their policy. And there's kind of grounds to do something on there.
It's awareness training and things like that.
Yeah, very much so. So 7.7 is how do you ensure, well, there we go, how do you ensure that administrator accounts are not used for accessing email or web browsing? Just follows the same recommendations.
Follow
there,
the
really,
same thing. If you've got logging or auditing enabled as well, you could view that as well.
Yeah, very true. And also things like, particularly on servers, lots of the web browsers are locked down anyway. They're in very limited modes. You don't typically have email clients installed on servers, so you can't really get to anything apart from webmail.
Exactly,
those kind of things. And then 7.8 is, do you formally track which users have administrator accounts on your organisation?
Yeah, so this one's just making sure that you do a review of who's got administrative access. So if it's in Active Directory, you could just run a quick report or do a quick search, see who's got rights to admin access. If you're a smaller company, it might just be a spreadsheet that you just quickly review and say X, Y, and Z.
Because it says there you must track by means of list or formal record. So an export from something like Active Directory would class as that would be acceptable.
Yeah.
Cool. 7.9, do you review who should have admin access on a regular basis? And I guess this would then fall into, again, your policy of making sure you're regularly reviewing that.
Exactly, yeah. Just make sure you review actually who's got access, especially if a lot of people have left recently who might have been from IT or someone more senior. Just making sure nothing's been left enabled for them, especially like VPN access or something like that potentially.
Very wise, yeah. Just housekeeping in general, really.
Yeah.
Not even just for admin staff, but in general to make sure you haven't left your old staff accounts.
Yeah.
We do get that from time to time where generally customers will tell us when the staff have left, but then sometimes we'll have a bit of a mop up and go, well, actually, who are all these 10 people? And then they left 5 years ago. So we have a good old clean out of those accounts, but just make sure you stay on top of it along the road, really. 7.10, have you enabled two-factor authentication for access to all admin accounts? And interesting, it says if your system supports two-factor authentication, then you must enable this for administrator accounts, because things like Windows Server user accounts, you can't really enable 2FA that easily.
Not easily,
start looking
no.
at external services and things.
Yeah, so it's, I guess, enable two-factor authentication where you can, where you're an administrative account, Office 365, enable it there, any other services that you use, admin access, try and enable it if you can.
We always say that for everybody, really, particularly Office 365, just enable it. If you're an admin or not, turn it on, because there's so much stuff going around nowadays, and so many malicious phishing attempts that 2FA just pretty much all but stops it. Still, things can get through, but does do a majority.
It's a deterrent.
Very much so, yeah. 7.11 is, if no, is this because two-factor authentication is not available for some of your devices and systems? So particularly, I guess we'll use Windows servers because lots of people are still on Windows servers and Active Directory. Is that an acceptable answer? Say we're using Active Directory and they'd have to go out and buy a different system to kind of tie in to do that? Or is that
exactly. Cyber Essentials doesn't expect anyone to buy any additional services to say yes. So if it's, for the argument's sake, Windows, you just say on Windows it's not applicable or not supported.
Unless, of course, I'm going to catch you out here in that if you're not running antivirus, then you have to go and buy antivirus.
Well, that is true. That is true.
Which I don't think we got to
you
yet.
could use Windows Defender.
Oh, true. No, very true. Yeah, good point.
Or Windows Security or whatever it is now.
Does it does Mac built-in protection class, or do you have to buy Mac antivirus?
I guess you'd have to buy Mac antivirus, wouldn't you?
Really?
I don't know.
It's one of those things. It's quite secure as it is, but there's officially there's no real
there's no real
antivirus protection built in, but it still is secure by default, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's enough in the built-in feature set of macOS to cover what's requested. You have the firewall pass in there. You have scans for malicious files going on. I don't know.
Depends on who's assessing, I guess. Does it?
I guess so. Yeah, it depends on the use case, I guess, and the description.
There's no specific question for it, but it does say it applies to computers, laptops, tablets, and mobile phones.
But I would have thought most businesses would actually install some kind of antivirus, anti-malware
Quite a lot don't on
in a
Macs.
corporate.
Yeah, when you get bigger corporates, that's for sure. Yeah. I wonder if my brother-in-law works for IBM. I wonder if they install because they obviously get offered whether you want a Mac or a PC.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'll ask him. I'll find out. So section 8.1, this is all about malware. So things like phishing attacks, web protection, email protection, antivirus. 8.1 is, and this is a bit of a multi-part question, so this will be interesting. Are all of your computers, laptops, tablets, and mobile phones protected by malware, from malware, by either A, having anti-malware or software installed, having anti-malware software installed, and B, limiting installation of applications to an approved set, or C, application sandboxing? So I guess you want to just cover off each of those just to explain what they are. So having anti-malware software installed.
Yeah, having anti-malware software installed, pretty much it's antivirus software with a bit of malware protection put in. Pretty much all the providers these days have some kind of feature set within that.
So you wouldn't have to go out, and cause I've seen a few people will go out and use things like malware bytes as well as antivirus. So you don't have to go out and buy a specific malware product. It can quite happily be antivirus with malware.
Exactly,
added into it. And then B is limiting installation of applications to an approved set, i.e. using an app store and a list of approved applications.
Yeah, so that could be, forgotten what the Mac version is, iStore, whatever it is. Or
App Store, isn't
App
it?
Store, yeah, or the Windows Store, things like that. So you could lock it down to just installing those, so any other third-party or unauthorized applications don't get installed.
So no jailbroken devices or anything along those lines.
Yeah, you're not allowed to jailbreak either under Cyber Essentials.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And then C is application sandboxing, i.e. by using a virtual machine.
Yep, I've never actually seen anyone actually mark that one down, but that could be a case of you've got a virtual machine on your computer and you open or install an application within that virtual machine that's siloed against your main operating system.
Right, yeah. That makes sense. I guess, is that more for developers? Because they'll be sat there kind of sandboxing their various things they're doing and then shut things down when they're not doing it.
Or maybe MOD type related businesses, things like that maybe.
Yeah, very true. Let's just skip past some of these because that says option... no, we do have to answer with these. If option A, which was the antivirus, where you have anti-malware software installed, is it set to update daily and scan files automatically upon access?
As it says, make sure it's up to date, gets updated, scans all the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. And then 8.3 is if option A again, where you have anti-malware software installed, is it set to scan web pages you visit and warn you about accessing malicious websites?
Yeah, so this is the one where it's if you're browsing the internet, is your anti-malware software checking the websites that you visit? So if you accidentally go into a malicious website, will it warn you and try and stop you from doing anything dangerous potentially?
It says here, so on Windows 10, Smart Screen can provide this functionality, so that's the built-in section within Windows.
That's right, yeah.
Is it set to scan web pages to visit and warn you about accessing malicious? Google Chrome does a fair bit of that already, doesn't it?
It can do, yeah. A lot of the browsers do a lot of stuff now, yeah.
If option B, just scrolling up, that is the limiting applications to an approved set.
Yep.
Where you use an app store or application signing, are users restricted from installing unsigned applications? And this does specifically say usually you have to root or jailbreak a device to allow unsigned applications. Yeah,
so again, that's just primarily making sure all your mobile devices, tablets are not jailbroken pretty much. They come from an approved store.
Yeah. So you know they're safe to install, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
8.5, if option B again, where you use an app store or application signing, do you ensure that users only install applications that have been approved by your organisation, and do you document this list of approved applications?
Yeah, this one can get a lot of companies a lot of the time. A lot of the time they say no, and then they have to come back and say yes.
Right.
So it's just making sure that you have an approved list of applications that people can install and use on their mobile devices, and then just make it, distribute it across your employees and things like that, so they know what's what.
IT policy again?
Yeah, IT policy, could be through MDM, mobile device management, things
so
like that.
So MDM's an option, but not a requirement, I guess, for that.
Yeah, cool. It depends upon the business and what they use.
So MDM, just to clarify for anyone that doesn't know what it is, MDM's mobile device management. It allows you to effectively restrict, lock down, whatever you want to do to mobile devices, which is great depending on the type of business, because you can even restrict things like the use of camera, the ability to install new applications. You can push out applications through MDM software. It is quite powerful.
Yeah.
But just to clarify, it's not a requirement. It's a kind of like a nice to have. If you do use it, then
pretty much
it comes up. Cool. And then 8.6 is if option C, where you are using where you use application sandboxing, do you ensure that applications within the sandbox are unable to access data stores, sensitive peripherals, and your local network? Describe how you achieve this.
So within the VM or the virtual machine, just make sure it can't actually talk to anything else. Making sure it can't talk to the host machine or the network or anything like that. It's just in that nice little silo.
Locked away.
Yeah, locked away, yeah.
Cool. And that is the questionnaire. I've just scrolled to the bottom. That seems to be it. I think there's a few more questions at the end of the online, which is where it collects information about the business, for the cyber essentials, insurance and those kind of things.
That's right, yeah, declaration form to sign and stuff like that.
Exactly, all of those bits. Another question from the audience is, how often are new Cyber Essentials questions added? Do you have any security recommendations which aren't required for the certification that you think will be added in future? This might comes back to what we were chatting about earlier, I think, where Cyber Essentials is about to go through a big bit of a change, possibly. I don't know if you want to just elaborate a bit more.
Yeah, I guess in the past, questions on Cyber Essentials probably got updated maybe once a year, once every other year. Wasn't very often. If you look at some of the questions, they can look a bit out of date. But at the moment, NCSC, the governing body who oversees Cyber Essentials, is actually going out a tender at the moment and is actually going to overhaul or revamp Cyber Essentials.
Right.
That is going to happen sometime next year, early part of next year, going from there, where it's going to get updated, I guess made it more modern, and go from there. There's not much information out there at the moment about what's going to happen. It's all under disclosure and stuff like that.
So you don't really know what's going to happen?
I haven't got a clue what's going to happen yet. I'll find out in a couple of months, hopefully. And,
okay.
We'll go from there.
Blimey. So that could be a big change. Yeah. Hopefully it won't be as a dramatic change. It would be nice to have a bit more, I guess, just centralisation on everything, because where there are individual... And I remember when I was first looking for Cyber Essentials, you go to the different kind of top tier, ISME and the other ones, and going, well, which one should I use?
Yeah.
And trying to figure out, and they've all got slightly different pricing depending on what options you go for. So ISME have the Cyber Essentials Basic, they have the Plus, and they also do as a GDPR version as well.
They've got their own ISME governance, which is like a low cost version of ISO 27001.
Right, okay. So
it
doesn't get you ISO 27001.
It doesn't, but it works towards it, and it kind of maps similar towards ISO 27001. They've got their 10 steps to ISO, I guess you could say.
Right, okay,
which is quite good.
Do you know how expensive that one is?
That one's normally about £400 plus VAT, so it's only an extra £100 for about an extra 100 and something questions.
Oh, because it includes the Cyber Essentials as part of it.
You do it all at the same time.
An extra 100 questions, is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
About 100 and something questions, yeah.
And they're really... I think we looked at that, I think I signed up for that the first time it came out when the whole GDPR thing came in.
Yeah.
And I went through it and answered it. I kind of used that to become GDPR compliant. Because then I did what I was saying earlier. You go through, answer yeses to everything. And then anything you write as no, you then write a big long list and then say, I'm going to go and fix all of those.
Yeah.
But then we've kind of done that the first year and then not done it the following years, because then it's quite a big... I say it's quite a big commitment. That sounds really bad. But we stay on top of the GDPR, but not to the point of having to go through the questionnaire every year, because it's a long old questionnaire.
It is.
We are GDPR compliant. I will be very clear on that. We are GDPR compliant. But yes, it's quite a lengthy one, and it's all very particular about and different. It's all policy based, isn't it? So it's not one answer fits all. It's very much unique per business.
It is. It's all about risk.
Yeah, exactly that. Cool. Well, thank you. I think that's probably it for today. That's we've answered all of those questions. So, like I say, hopefully for everyone listening in, that has been useful. If you do know anyone that's just about to take out Cyber Essentials, the certification, or is about to renew and isn't too sure, we often bump into people that want or need to become Cyber Essentials certified, but maybe don't have the money to go out and get a consultant in to do the certification, or they might come in and realise they need to buy a new antivirus product or buy a new security solution. So it's quite reassuring to know that you don't need to buy anything new specifically, unless you really are missing the point on antivirus and those kind of things. And I guess possibly with two-factor authentication, no, because it's built into everything really nowadays. You don't have to go and buy anything for that.
No.
So yes, if you do know anyone that's trying to take this certification, then get them to watch this, listen to this, whatever the best platform is for you. And if you need anything else, need any help, give us a shout, and certainly do speak to Marcus Dempsey. Best way to get in contact with you?
Either via website or social media. We're on all platforms pretty much. Just do a search.
What's the website address?
Website is terabyteit.co.uk.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time, Marcus.
No,
appreciate that. And see you all, listen to you all, speak to you all in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.